welcome back to the channel. It is 2 weeks until the photo shoot in Marbella. Now I've gotten shredded about 5 times across the last few years, and this time has been the toughest yet by far. So I pushed my physique to new levels. This is as lean as I've ever been. I've never been this lean, I've never been this light, and it's been such a struggle. Like, this is way harder than the marathon training. With this, it's not like you do a hard workout and then you come home and you forget about it. This is 24 hours a day. It's hunger, it's low energy, it's irritability. Even in your sleep, you don't get a respite because your stress hormone cortisol is high. It's trying to wake you up in the middle of the night. It's trying to wake you up early in the morning, stopping you from getting back to sleep because it's saying you need to wake up and go and get some food. So it's been real tough. You're fighting those survival instincts 24 hours a day, and your body's just really pushing back. So it's been really tough, and yeah, I'm in a bit of a sticky one with this at the moment. I'm really in the trenches, but we're not going to give up. We're going through it. One thing I always remember is, you know, there's people that would want to do this but can't. There's people who are paralyzed or people who have some sort of illness where they can't do what I'm doing at the moment. So you just got to remember that and be grateful for what you can do. Now today, given that I am feeling really bad and, you know, I've been dieting for quite a while and my muscle glycogen's low, the muscles are flat, we're going to do what's called a higher day. So we're going to run high carbs for today and the same tomorrow. So my coach has given me my diet for today. To be honest, I wouldn't call it a higher day. I'd like a lot more, but we're going to run it, and then we'll assess the data in terms of the physique shots after I've got a pump on at the gym later. And then also tomorrow morning in terms of how much I weigh, whether I've gone up day on day or down or stayed flat. That will give us an indication as to whether or not I need to increase the level of carbs. So we're also sort of testing the waters here for the photo shoot. Now there's no exciting food today. So to run you through what I've got, I have got a total of 2,788 calories, 162 protein, 402 carb and 55 fat. And the first meal is going to be oats, 90 grams with 150 grams of frozen blueberries, 20 grams of whey, and then 35 grams of peanut butter just to get my fats up and replenish intramuscular triglycerides. And then in meal 2, I've got chicken breast, 125 gram, 70 gram jasmine rice, 100 gram green beans. For meal 3, that same meal is then going to be repeated. And then for dinner, I've got beef mince at 5% fat, 125 grams, 70 gram jasmine rice again, and 100 grams of green beans. And then I'll show you my pre and post workout later on as well. Now, in terms of why we run a high carb day or a refeed day, there's a couple of reasons. So the first is just to replenish muscle glycogen, which is the stored energy in your muscles, and that's going to give a boost to training performance again. And improving your performance in the gym is going to allow you to retain more muscle tissue as you diet down. It's also going to give the metabolism a bit of a kick. This is not going to make a massive impact, but it will give it a little bit of a kickstart again, as it's going to have slowed down where you diet. Then you can also test how many carbs your body can load before the photo shoot. So it gives us some data that we can use to then decide, okay, what are we actually going to run 2 days out from the shoot, 1 day out from the shoot, before our body spills over and blurs the muscle definition, because obviously we want to look full, dry and vascular on the day. And this is just testing what we're going to run in terms of that carb load pre-shoot. And then lastly, there's a very strong psychological component to it. So dieting like this, as I've mentioned, it really takes its toll on you mentally, and having those high carb days just gives you a bit of a break and allows you to come back a little bit fresher afterwards as well. Now, there's some mistakes that people make when implementing high carb refeed days. The main one is that people just implement them too soon and too often. Now, if you're severely fatigued, your training's gone to shit, you've been dieting for 10 to 12 weeks and you're very lean and very receptive to carbs, you could probably do with one. If you've been dieting for a couple of weeks and you've just started, you've got quite a lot of body fat still to lose, you don't need one. There's absolutely no need to implement them. You just want to keep a moderate calorie deficit for as long as possible. And then maybe, 16 weeks down the line, you might look at either having a diet break or a refeed if you're lean enough. Now later on, I'm going to be hitting a leg day, so I'm going to be filming as much of that as I can. Very fatigued, as you know, but I'm going to try and take the camera with me and get a good workout filmed, just so I can run through what I'm doing in terms of a leg day. Training at the moment, I'm really having to dig deep because you don't have that energy when you're in the gym like you normally would. And it's really important that you do hit your sets with maximum intensity, again, just to retain muscle tissue as you diet down. You don't want to end up just looking skinny. You want to retain as much lean tissue as you can. Now I'm going to go for a quick walk, and yeah, we'll catch up later on. Just getting some steps in on the way to the sunbed shop. I've actually got a spray tan booked out in Marbella day before the shoot. All the boys have been organising it on our little WhatsApp group chat, but I don't want to be going out there looking double pale, do I? So yeah, let's go get tanned.
This ergonomic sunbed features a voice guide that provides you with information on the control operations being carried out while you're tanning. Of course, this is only if you want it to. You can turn this function off by pressing the voice guide button a second time.
Now, for those of you who watch my channel regularly, you'll know that I love a black coffee, especially when I'm dieting. It helps to get rid of hunger and give you energy. At the moment, I'm drinking them iced. That's because the weather's warmer, but also it's nicer to drink an iced coffee through a straw than it is a hot coffee. And I'm whitening my teeth at the moment for Marbella, and I don't want it staining them, as when you're actually whitening them, they're more susceptible to restaining. So that's something I'm using at the moment. I want to be real and authentic on this channel and be honest with you, and at the moment I'm also using this as a crutch. So this is a nicotine vape. Where this dieting phase has been so hard, this has come in handy because nicotine, it works in much the same way that caffeine does as a stimulant, so it gives you energy and focus and alertness, but it also staves off hunger and blunts your appetite. So I have been using that a lot, and it helps to get rid of those sweet cravings that you might have later on in the evening. I would in no way recommend that at all. There's a ton of health issues with it. But again, just wanted to be honest and say that that is something that I have been using this prep. And I know that a lot of other people do use that. But if you're someone who's never smoked before, never vaped before, I would definitely not recommend pulling out a vape when you're dieting, because obviously, you know, it goes against all the health principles that a lot of us are trying to work towards. So yeah, just wanted to be honest on that one. Right, now, one thing I have been doing is eating my meals at the table, no phone, no TV. Normally I sit on the sofa and eat, but actually eating at a table is going to help you to be more present while you're eating, more mindful, and that can help you kind of in your brain feel a little bit more full. So that's just another trick that I pull out. Now we've got a pre-workout meal going in, got 3 squares bars, which is going to be unbelievably good, and then a white monster as normal, and then I'm going to have teaspoon pink salt as always, have some creatine, have some water, and then we'll be getting down the gym to train legs, and I'll be running you through that workout. Let's go. Right, let's run you through this leg workout then. So we're going to start on leg extensions, which is an isolation exercise for the quads. Now I like to train in this style. I've done this for a couple of years. Fortunately, the current coach that I'm with also likes this training method. So this is what we're running at the moment. A lot of isolation work before the big compounds. That gets the muscle warmed up, and it builds that mind muscle connection so that you can really overload the muscle during your big compounds. And it also means that you can use lighter weight on those compounds, which is going to save your joints. So the goal of any training, if you're trying to grow muscle, should be to stimulate the muscles as much as possible, but also alleviate the joints. You don't want to damage your joints. You do want to put as much pressure as possible on the muscle. So doing an isolation first is a great way to do that. Now I am doing a back off and a loading set on most of these exercises. That means that I'm pushing to absolute failure on every set and really going for it, rather than doing 3 or 4 sort of half-assed sets and, you know, getting a moderate stimulus. I want to lower the volume overall, but make sure that volume is of a really high quality. Now we move on to the same movement, but essentially reversed, and that is for the hamstrings. So we've got a lying ham curl. This movement is going to target the hamstrings and a little bit of the calves, but you want to try and minimize that. So throughout this movement, think about squeezing your glutes and driving your hips forward into the pad, and give a nice little squeeze at the top and at the bottom, just to really slow the movement down and focus on the contraction. I also find it helps to really lock myself in place. So you want to grab those handles, flex your back and your arms, and make sure you've got full stability. In any movement, the more stability you've got, the better you're going to be able to perform that movement. Then we're going to move on to the first compound lift, which is going to be a hack squat. Now you can replace this with a barbell squat or maybe a pendulum squat, any other sort of big compound movement that's going to target the full legs, you could switch up for this movement. But I really like the hack squat. It locks you in place, it keeps you stable, whereas with the barbell you've got to stabilize that throughout the whole movement. And also my legs and limbs are quite long, I'm an ectomorph, so it doesn't really work as well with my biomechanics when I'm doing it with a barbell. If you're short and squat, that might work better for you, but my limbs are sort of long and lean, so this is a much better movement for me, just to overload the quads. Now with this, it is a really tough movement, but you can bail out at the bottom without worrying, so you can actually push to failure and fully overload the legs, which is what you'll see me do here. If you've got a barbell, yes, you may have like the racks next to you, but it's still a bit of an awkward situation to be bailing out of under a barbell with however much load on it. So drive these hack squats to absolute failure and you'll get a really nice stimulus in not just your quad but your whole leg. So once I've dusted 2 to 3 sets on there, I'm going to move on to the second compound, which is going to be a leg press. Now I don't go ultra heavy on these. What I do is really focus on form. So as I've said, I've already pre-exhausted the muscles a little bit with an isolation exercise and then hack squats, so I'm not going to be able to go super heavy anyway. And obviously this machine, there's not really a way of bailing out. Yeah, you've got the pegs there at the bottom that you can see in the video, but it's not really an ideal situation. So I'm going a little bit lighter on this, but what I am doing at the bottom of the movement is doing a little mini pause, and that's just going to make sure I'm driving maximum tension. I'm not bouncing out of the bottom. If you bounce out at the bottom of the movement, what that means is that you can get more strength and lift more load, but you're not going to get as much tension on the muscle, and tension is the key driver of growth when you're trying to provide a stimulus to your muscles to either retain tissue in a cut or grow tissue in a bulk. Now with this exercise, I do get pretty close to failure. I think I've got 12 reps here, and the last few reps were really tough. I did feel really lightheaded after I'd done these and then stood up, so be careful on that one. Then we move on to another compound, but with a much lighter load. So this is a Smith machine split squat. I normally do these with dumbbells, but I really like this machine and I thought I'd switch it up given that I was at a different gym today. So we do around 12 to 15 reps on this. Again, 2 sets each leg. Doing it one leg at a time, what that allows is to place less load on the spine, and spinal loading, also known as axial loading, drives a shit ton of fatigue in the body. So anything that really loads your spine, think deadlifts, squats, etc., is going to cause a lot of fatigue. Now obviously with some movements you can't get away with not doing that. So for example, like today I've had to do a hack squat, like I need a big compound for my quads, but as much as I can limit that spinal loading as possible, the better, particularly when I'm in the depths of a cut like I am now and we're really trying to manage fatigue, because obviously being in a diet, low calories, training hard, cardio, etc., also generates a lot of fatigue. So the more we can limit that, the better. So next we're going to move on to another isolation exercise. I normally do these earlier on in the workout. However, I've noticed that my adductors get really bad DOMs. So I want to limit that a little bit. So I'm putting them later on in the workout when I'm a little bit more fatigued and I don't think they need as much work as the other muscles do. So we're going to aim for around 12 to 15 reps here. And then I also do a heavier set as well. So just 2 sets on this one to failure. With this, try not to lean forward because it shifts the emphasis of what you're training. I also just make sure that I'm really locked in with those handles and stabilizing myself and focus on bringing the knees together. Try not to swing again. If you can pause at the top of the movement and then at the bottom as well, that's really going to help to drive tension. And then lastly, to finish any leg workout, you normally go for the calves. Now this is a standing calf raise machine. I actually normally use the donkey calf raise, which is a sat down one, for the reason that I just spoke about in terms of axial loading. This one obviously places a lot of pressure on the spine because the weight is loaded straight through the back, as you can see here. Whereas with the seated one, the weight is above the knee. So the only thing that's being loaded is the lower leg. So I do normally prefer that. But again, in a new gym, I thought I'd try something different today. My calves are tiny, but given that I'm incredibly lean, they are popping out a little bit here, which is good to see. Right, so that was really good, really tough leg session. Hit failure on most exercises there. Had to bail out under the hack squat, bail out under the split squat, but that was a really good session. Had to push through it. Now it's time for the next meal, and I brought this with me. So brought a cool box, 300 millilitres of almond milk and 100 grams of Cocoa Pops. Unreal. This is like crack at this point in the diet. You don't know true hunger until you've dieted down to about 10% body fat. There's emotional hunger, and then there's this level of hunger. And when you're at this level, something like Cocoa Pops, it's honestly unbelievable. So good. Right, that is it for the high day. We're going to be running another one tomorrow, hopefully with more carbs, depending on the look tomorrow and also the scale weight, but we'll see. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. I've got a lot of good content coming in Marbella, and I'm really excited to show you the final look. So I'll see you then.